Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. I'm CP and in this video I'm going to be reviewing John Varvatos Vintage. As per usual, this fragrance review will be conducted with the Bespoke Unit Fragrance Formula, a quantifiable review matrix that you can use at home. Just look in the description, you'll find a link to a guide which will teach you how to use it, as well as download some blank PDF versions that you can print off or complete on a device of your choice. With that being said, let's move on to the fragrance. This is John Varvatos, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, Vintage. Very well known, it was released in 2016. The nose behind it is Rodrigo Flores-Roux, who is a senior perfumer now at Givaudan, but has worked at a variety of different brands, such as Dolce and Gabbana. He did some stuff for Kylie Minogue, and he did the whole John Varvatos range, or at least the vast majority of it. And before I continue, the batch code on this is 771. This is an eau de toilette, and as you'll learn in a moment, it is a woody aromatic fragrance. Although it has been described as a chypre, for me this is definitely woody aromatic. With that being said, let's move on to sampling this fragrance. So, I got that everywhere except where I wanted it to. So the opening of this fragrance is quite pungent. It is very busy, there's a lot of things happening. It is a very aromatic blend that consists primarily of chamomile, some rhubarb, fennel and basil. And in fact, it reminds me a lot of this Danish akvavit that a friend gave me, Dr. Nielsen's Bitter. So if you like akvavit, especially that has been absolutely loaded with various aromatics and spices, John Varvatos Vintage is definitely going to be a fragrance for you. Nevertheless, this aromatic composition is quite pleasant. It's bracing, refreshing. The hints of fennel play off quite nicely against the rhubarb, which has a slight fruity acidity to it, and the basil and the chamomile. The chamomile is going to be more alluring. It's going to keep things quite calm, whereas as chamomile does. Whereas the basil is going to be a little bit zesty and play quite nicely alongside the fennel. Moving on to the heart of this fragrance. So you're then going to experience a very different alcoholic beverage, which is gin, because we have juniper berries that dominate the heart. They have this kind of fruity acidity, which is contrasted quite nicely by some earthy patchouli and a little hint of floral jasmine. Then as you transition towards the base, things are going to get a little bit more gourmand, a little bit more warm and alluring. It is primarily some tonka bean, which is indeed a very gourmand, almost chocolatey, caramelly note, where as well as some orris root and oakmoss, which creates a certain herbaceous, resinous character that merges quite nicely with the tonka bean. It's, as I said, quite a busy fragrance. There's a lot of things going on in here, which at times can be a little bit overwhelming, but when applied strategically, it can be quite effective. The life cycle is quite conventional in its structure. There are many different notes at different times. They don't seem to interact with one another quite as much as I expected, given the sheer breadth of them, but it's still pleasant nonetheless. This leads me on to the wake and strength, which seems to be quite decent overall. So the longevity, this is going to give you a couple of hours. I'd say if you were to put it on before leaving for work, you probably want to apply it again around the lunchtime period. The sillage and projection stay relatively close to the skin, but the sillage is quite good. It leaves a good trail. The projection bubble, the scent bubble, is going to be quite close though. Next, the seasonality of this fragrance. This is perhaps best worn during the winter and autumn period, during the colder months. However, you could certainly consider wearing it during the early spring when the flowers and the birds and the bees start to come back. However, when the temperatures really start to rise, this is going to be a little bit too brash, a little bit too spicy for those periods. It's definitely not a fragrance that I would wear during the summer period. Moving now on to the third-party feedback and what other people have said about this fragrance that I've seen among the fragrance community and asked around my entourage. Well, first of all, people liken this to being soapy and boozy. Some people see this as a good thing, some not so much. Some people wouldn't wear it or are a little bit put off by that aspect. but some really enjoy it. It's pretty classy once it dries down, was another comment that stuck to mind. Indeed, this is going to be quite brash when it first opens up, but then once it starts to settle, it's a little bit more subdued and a little bit more elegant. When it comes to the age ranges that are find this most appealing, it's definitely going to be a more younger crowd. Older people would prefer something probably more mature than this. In any case, the feedback I got was that it smelt a little bit cheap to them, and indeed it does have a kind of budget vibe to it, but then again, given its price point, that is not overly surprising. This leads me onto the impressions, and so the recommended age range for this, I'd say this is a fragrance for the more mature teen or somebody in their 20s. It's a great casual fragrance that they can wear to go out. It's the best time of day to wear it will probably be around the evening, so this is a good fragrance to, if you're going out for a couple of drinks, you're going on a casual night out where you're not going to paint the town red. This is a firm choice. Otherwise, its masculinity is quite strong. It's not particularly subtle in that regard. So the overall presentation, I'm quite fond of this bottle and this faux vintage leather effect that it's got going, which I suppose is, well, hence the name, with the understated gold text that is printed here. The shape of the bottle is quite unusual. It does look a little bit like, Grandpa's medicine bottle, if you know what I mean. And I quite like this hip flask style, actually. It's pretty cool. The atomizer is okay. It does seem to lay it on a little bit thick. It's not really a mist. These are more small particles, droplets. And the packaging, it seems to try and extend this vintage leather style, but I feel like the way they've done the pebbled or snakeskin leather here doesn't seem to work quite well, and it looks a little bit cheap, to be perfectly honest. Oops. As for the value though, this fragrance offers great value. You're looking at about $50 RRP for 100 milliliters. However, you can pick it up for about $40 through a few online retailers. There are a couple in the link below, the links in the description below, of the best prices that we found from our favorite, most trustworthy retailers. Overall, this is quite a busy fragrance with an unusual composition of herbaceous notes. That being said, it's incredibly affordable, and it presents itself as a tasteful, casual fragrance for the understated and modest young man. That's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a like. Please subscribe if you want more like this. We cover other men's lifestyle subjects. And until our next video, why don't you head to bespokeunit.com and see all the other subjects we cover. I'm sure there'll be something that you'll like. Till then, take care.